You meant digital. You meant you mentioned technology. What does that look like now when we're talking about nonprofit? We're saying AI. Nonprofit to me sometimes falls so behind on scaling because we don't adapt to technology. And now AI being here, I think it's a resource, a tool in our toolkit. But so many people are still seeing this fear that is taking opportunities away. What are your thoughts on that, man? Now that you have this background in it as well.
So AI is just that. It's a great tool. And I think if used well, it could really help expedite the pace with which people work, the resources and the thoughts behind how people work. Anything from predictive AI to kind of help leverage information and resources to generative AI to being able to help us brainstorm and think on how we approach problems, approach situations, can collaborate with one another. I think it's an amazing tool when used. I think a lot of people, especially in nonprofit organizations that are like in mine, behavioral health type services that are very people focused, there becomes this fear that if you're going to take out the human element to this, you're going to take out the human touch.
Correct.
AI doesn't have the empathy that's needed for this job, doesn't have the connective relationship skills that are necessary for this job. And I don't think AI is ever going to be designed to do that, at least not anytime in the immediate future. I think AI is there to kind of help support those people in those skills and in the development and application of resources and tools being used. Examples: simulation software, I think, is fantastic. In my space, we have forensic interviewers that get trained, and these interviewers are trained to speak with children on the trauma that they've experienced, to be able to help navigate a case if a case needs to be investigated, support services if they need to be delivered to that child or to that family. But how can we help that forensic interviewer to refine their skills, get better at
Yeah.
conducting those interviews, respond in a trauma-informed way that is sensitive to the child? Simulation software is a great way to do that. Every time that a forensic interviewer uses simulation technology to run through, here's how I would respond to this situation, that software learns and can start adapting to, well, how would you respond if it was presented this way? How would you respond if it was, and they can practice and learn and grow. That's the way I see AI, in using MySpace as an example, to be very beneficial. Now, you're never going to put a child into a simulation technology room and let simulation technology take their impact report. No, the human's always still going to need to do that. But we could keep working on helping to improve the way that that human goes into that environment and serves. So nonprofits need to be more open to how AI can be a tool. But tech is a crazy area where you've got so many people that use tech for wrong purposes and to
Hmm.
damage and to hurt and to steal and to cheat. And in my space, we've got a lot of the bad guys are using technology to prey on children and use children and hurt children in ways that we're just not equipped and we're not paying enough attention to combating. And I think I've shared this before.
Yeah.
Bad guys are playing chess. We're playing checkers. They are way ahead of us in how to use technology to prey on children. We need to be stronger at how we use technology to combat that.
Yeah, man, I think you're really dead on a lot of those things. And just using from a personal level, like myself, that I use ChatGPT every single day, right? How more creative I've become. I mean, I've created automations for myself. Never in a million years would I thought that I'd be the guy creating automations. But when it's so easy to access by just prompting it to do exactly what you need to do,
Mhm.
you're like, man, I'm a force to be reckoned with now.
Right,
Like I'm good,
right.
and I think that people are just not utilizing it to the best of their ability
Yep.
because of the word fear. I'm telling you, anytime you say AI, people's like either that or they just overwhelmed with all these AI tools. I don't know what it is, man, but there's something along those lines. But
Agreed.
this is good, man. You remember the moment that, or pretty sure there's been plenty of moments, but a moment that just brings you back to like, man, this is why I do this. This is why I've gave my career to nonprofit and to helping others. There's a moment that comes to mind.
Yeah, and it was an emotional moment for me. I was the executive director for Project Cure, and I was sent to Hermosillo, Mexico, to assess a hospital that was there. And the intention of the project was to determine what they lacked in equipment and supplies in order to be able to care for the clientele or patient that would come on in. And I pull up, and government was funding a container of medical relief with these supplies and equipment. And there was a lot of government with me. There was a lot of media with me. Everybody was kind of following me as I went into this hospital to really document what I was doing and the change that was going to be made to this hospital. And from the outside, this hospital looked beautiful, just immaculate. When you walked in, it was empty. There was no equipment. There was no supplies. They were reusing suture. They were reusing gloves. And I happened to walk into a room that didn't have a door on it. It had a curtain covering the entryway. I moved the curtain back, and I walked on in, and it was a big hospital room. But all that was in it was a crib with a little girl laying inside of it that was dying from brain cancer. And she was hooked up to some heart monitoring machine and nothing else in this room. On the other side, her father was pacing in a circle. And his eyes were red from just tears and crying. And he was begging for anybody to help his daughter, because his daughter was about to pass. And we all knew that she was going to pass in moments. And when I came in, and I had media with me and government with me, to him, I looked like Jesus himself. Oh my gosh, you're the guy that is going to bring the tools and the equipment that these doctors need to save my daughter's life. And all I had was a clipboard and a pen. And I'm just documenting, you lack this, you lack that, you need this, you need that. Mm-hmm. And this father was just looking at me with such desperation. And then his daughter passed. And when his daughter passed, his knees hit the floor with the biggest thump that I've ever heard in my entire life. And he wailed in just pain and agony. And all I could do was look at him and comfort him, and then promise to him that I was going to do everything in my power to try to make sure that this same situation didn't happen to the next little girl and father that came into that hospital. And it broke my heart because he lost so much in that moment. It broke my heart that he had to be in that moment with me and with all of the cameras and the entourage around me in that moment, which is such a dark and dismal point for him and his life. But it reinforced for me why it is so important for all of us to work together to understand what we can do to lift one another up and care and serve one another in ways that may not necessarily have to directly affect us, but directly affect the livelihood and the lives of each other and one another. And so that moment